Hi, I'm Megan Bamer. I'm a writer and an artist, and this is where my story begins.
In 2018, I went on a road trip with my mom. We drove from Minnesota all the way to Idaho and back in a big loop. I'd never been to the Plains States before or any of the Northwest. It seemed like everywhere we went there were markers for the Lewis and Clark Trail. I had an incredibly vague, romantic notion about the Lewis and Clark expedition, and the constant reminders piqued my curiosity. On our way back, we stopped at Pompey's Pillar, a tower of rock in the Montana Plains named after Sacagawea's son. I purchased a copy of the Journals of Lewis and Clark and immediately started reading. I thought it would be a dry, difficult read, but I tore through every entry, scribbling notes in the margins. The story began as a loose sketch and blossomed into an intricate painting. The further I went, the more nuances I saw. Suddenly, it wasn't just Lewis and Clark. There were more than 24 men who made it to the Pacific and back, and they became people to me. When I finished the journals, I dove into my research. I saw forgotten voices. I saw this strange mix of manifest destiny propaganda alongside a story far more complex than I'd ever understood. So I began to write a novel. Writing this narrative became a vehicle for my own education. Through it, I learned about the Shawnee, the Mandans, and a dozen other Native American nations. I educated myself on the modern struggles of Native Americans, something I had previously been blind to, and I began to think about how I could change my own behavior and become a better ally. I want to tell this story without unconscious bias. This spring, I'm going on my own journey of discovery. I will bike from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Meriwether Lewis started his voyage, to St. Louis, all the way up the Missouri River and onto the Pacific Ocean. I want to go to the places that Lewis and Clark explored and experience them on my own, outside of the lens of history. By doing so, I'll have the opportunity to visit historic sites and interview experts to gain perspective on the history and Native American cultures that have been overwritten.
This is where you come in. I'm looking for enthusiastic supporters who want to follow me on this adventure. As I bike nearly 4,350 miles over the course of 4 months, I will write my own journals just as Lewis and Clark did. There are a number of costs associated with the trip, including campground fees, food, supplies, unexpected repairs, as well as the costs of the trip back home. I'm asking for your help in raising $5,000, 15% of which will go to the Warrior Women Project, a nonprofit that helps to raise the voices of Indigenous women. I will post updates weekly on my blog, share pictures, post videos on YouTube, live stream Q&As on the road, and compile a mini documentary at the end of my trip. And thank you for your support. Check out the backer rewards below. Will you join me on this adventure?